He had built a house for his retirement, and his wife had passed away. Many people they feel guilt about senior living. No, they think that as if choosing senior living community, it means that the family has failed. But it is not so. It's the other way around.
Welcome to Designing Dignified Aging, a podcast series about one of the most powerful conversations that India is not having loudly enough. Hello, I'm your host, Dr. Amita Prabhin, and joining me today is someone who has built his life on two very powerful pillars: service to the nation and service to the built environment. Our guest is a veteran of the Indian Armed Forces. He has been a civil engineer for many decades and has now dedicated his post service life to asking a deceptively simple question: where are seniors of India living and how? It is a pleasure and a privilege to have Colonel Dr. Baskaran with us today to have this conversation. Welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Amita. The honor is mine, and it's a very interesting subject to discuss today, and which has been a very long overdue conversation.
Surely. So let us begin with a good beginning, maybe with a story. So we would like to know, how did you get interested in senior living communities? Was there a moment, any person, or any experience that shifted your interest to this area?
Yes, Amita, there was, and I'll still share it because I think it speaks of like to what most Indian families are equally living through without language for it. It started, no, not as a project or as I planned something like that, but it just began as a moment. After I left army, I was in corporate sector and I was in L&T, and then later on I joined a senior living community developer. The reason I can quote a few incidences, right from my army days, which I was, it started with my parents, and also a couple of incidences, how it turned my mind out onto, the senior living aspects. Long time back, actually, I visited one of the housing society in Chennai, where as I was walking through, I saw a villa where one uh, a gentleman was sitting in the sit out, and he was not connected with anything. He was not interested in talking to people or anything. So he was just waiting for something. And as I was walking, I went to him and sat next to him. Then we were discussing something. As the discussion went on, then he was disclosing that the house he bought, after planning to buy after retirement, his children were settled in abroad. They were studying or settled in abroad, and his wife passed away. So a dream house which he thought he'll, after retirement, he'll spend comfortable time with the family or with his wife. So it became a place of isolation. And I thought, no, we are designing the buildings, but not lives. So like this, couple of instances happened, and I developed interest towards this senior living aspects. So that put me into a thought that why not, shift myself professionally. I associated myself with the senior living. So while doing, I have done my doctoral research also, which helped me in honing my skills further. India today is undergoing a demographic shift. According to the longitudinal aging study in India, that we call it the LASI, nearly 20% of the elderly, people living in a poor mental health and loneliness. This is not a statistics. That's a structural failure. In countries like the Netherlands, senior living communities are designed like a life ecosystems, not just housing. In India, we are still thinking of square foot rate and square foot, and that is where my journey began. And not as a developer, but as a someone asking, how do we design dignity?
Thank you for giving us that insight. So your background is really interesting. You have a background in the armed forces and also in civil engineering. So, how do these backgrounds shape the way you look at the problem of senior living in India?
See, the combination shaped everything about how I see this problem. The armed forces they believe in, and they taught me, uh, like in any army officer, to think in systems, not fragments. In cantonment, nothing exists in isolation. Everything is not like is a, you know, inclusive model. The housing, you take it housing or healthcare or recreation and community are all integrated. You don't see the loneliness there because the interaction is designed. Identity doesn't collapse after retirement because the system continues to include you even after retirement also. So civil engineering, when you say, and the other hand, taught me like know how to translate human needs into spaces. Every emotion, safety, dignity, dependence must be expressed through design. When you look at it, urban India today, I see the gap clearly. We are building structures but not systems. And high rise without community, homes are aging with no aging without support. So when I put all these things together, then India's aging population, I didn't see a social problem. I saw a massive infrastructure gap that nobody was building it for. So let me give you some numbers, because in my experience, the numbers are the fastest way to make it no, invisible visible. As of now, India had approximately 150 million people above the age of 60. That is, by 2050, it will become 346 million. So we will have more elderly persons. That means in 2050, every one person out of five will be the senior citizen, which is going to be, much more than the entire population of the United States. So now there is a urgent need to address this problem by India. The United Nations that they have categorized India as a like aged society, meaning that 10% of our population is over 65. We are on track to become an aged society where the figure crosses 20% by 2050. The difference, countries like Japan, Germany, and Europe, other European countries, and they took nearly 40 to 70 years back, to make the transition. And we are projected to make it, in 20 years, last 20 years only, we started this, addressing this problem. We are aging faster than we are preparing, and the infrastructure, the housing, the healthcare, or the community system simply does not exist at the scale of what we need.
That's an alarming situation that you have brought in front of us. In the everyday lives of elderly people, what do you think are the challenges that they face at their homes?
See, the biggest challenge is the invisibility. The invisibility in terms of like whether it is physical or emotional or social and functional. Let me give you some example. No, the most Indian homes are not designed for seniors. It's not senior friendly. It is not like they're not designed and built for normal people to live in. The senior friendly houses, it should have it should not have the slippery floor. It should have the anti slippery, the flooring material and the various other design aspects that we don't consider when we make the building. We don't even keep it in our mind that no, the house, no, the elderly people are living in there. So that kind of practice is going on now. I've seen simple cases where the fall has changed everything. I know there's one retired bank officer who fell in the bathroom. Then he became immobile. Incidentally, for senior people, the most of the accidents happen in bathrooms because it is not well designed. The bathroom has to be, like it is. It should be the wheelchair friendly, and it should not be latched from inside. Because if somebody comes in the wheelchair and he's, had the stroke or something, if it is latched inside, it will not be able to open. Similarly, the door width should be at least 1 meter wide, that is 3 feet wide, where the wheelchair can access, get into it easily, and maneuverability that we have to see. So those are the design aspects that we have to see when we construct the house, when we make the building senior friendly. So this when this goes beyond like this, uh, places like countries like Japan and other in Japan, what happens? It is all the community that gives the ecosystems. The government gives the ecosystem. They design the senior living community or even the individual houses, keeping in mind that it is the concept of aging in place. So their local healthcare and social clubs and the mobility infrastructure, this is all well designed. In fact, the HelpAge India says that 47% of the elderly feel neglected by their families. Similarly, there's an organization called Agewell Foundation Survey. In 2021, they found that over 65% of the elderly Indian, they report feeling lonely. So it is on a regular basis, not occasionally or regularly. So in India, we assume the family will solve everything, but the family themselves, they are changing.
So, for all the problems that you mentioned, senior living communities seem to be one of the answers. But when it comes to India, it seems that Indians are still hesitant about the idea of senior living communities. Why do you think it is so, and what are we holding on to?
Because we are confusing independence with abandonment. No, like in India, the culturally we are moving out of the joint family system. The family home is seen as the failure of the family system, but that assumption is outdated. Today, over 60% of the households they are living in urban and nuclear. Migration is high. Children are going abroad and going global. I met a couple in Bangalore. They said both are professionals, both their children are settled in abroad, settled in US. They told me we don't want to depend on our children. Either we don't want to be left alone. So that is the gap that they've identified. So that may be one of the main reasons what like they would like to go in for a living in a community, senior living community. While I was serving in army, when I was posted in close to Punjab, or even when I visited, had a chance to visit Gujarat or Rajasthan. There in Rajasthan, what happened? People, the elderly people, they sit in a charpa and they have the peers, and they have the what do you call? They have the liberty of embedding themselves into community life. They had a say in the community as an elder. Similarly, in Punjab, also same thing. Like no, like maybe the dinner time, they'll put the charpa and sit in front of the house, and they have a community meal. So the system which developed, at least one meal a day that they can join together and have together. So nearby people, neighbors, and they also join it. So a kind of a community system, interacting with each other that has been developed, and they had the authority or weightage in the community. But their counterparts living in Gurgaon or in Pune or Bombay, they are living in high-rise apartments. They don't know even who is the neighbor. They don't have that kind of the freedom, authority, or the weightage that these people in the village that they have. So they'll just go out, go for a walk, come back, and sit at home, sit in front of the TV or watching the TV, or maybe doing some household work. That's all. But as far as when they go outside interacting with the people, that one is missing. And many people they feel guilty of like about senior living, and they think that as if choosing the senior living community it means that the family has failed, but it is not so. It's the other way around. Creating a dedicated communities, which is if you lead them, it's about recognizing them, and they can live comfortably, safely, and with dignity. In Australia, there's 7% of the retired people, they live in retirement communities, whereas in India, it's not even 1% that know, like our people, retired people, they live in such kind of senior living communities. So it's not the resistance what they feel, but it's the lack of awareness and trust that the senior citizens also, senior people, elderly also, at the same time, their families also, that they have not understood what is the concept of senior living. Thus, they lack the awareness. And it is not, again, I'm telling it's not abandonment. It's a respect planned with intention.
So, what today we need is education about the importance of senior living communities. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that Indians mainly have about senior living or retirement communities?
The biggest misconception is no, they are the old age homes. Fundamentally, they are not. The old age homes are they're very reactive and need based, whereas the senior living is not so. It's a proactive and lifestyle based. They are built for living, not for waiting, actually. So this is what the basic misconception. And the word old age home connotes, no, like it carries enormous weight in the Indian side. The old age homes are basically the NGO run or the government run uh, for the people who seek such kind of assistance, who are in need. So whereas the senior living community, as I said, they have come here by choice. Nobody is compelling them to come here and stay there. They are coming because they choose to live in there. So that is the difference between these two. And senior living community, actually, it looks like in United States, Australia, and Singapore, they are increasingly, doing very well. In US, if you see the many residents at the age of 60s, no, they're not, they're coming to senior living community not by compulsion, not that they have to come. They choose to come and live there. There, what happened, you have purposely designed the senior living communities with all the facilities available, whether it's an apartment or whether it's an individual villa that they have to stay. uh, all the living units, they have the wider doors, they have the senior-friendly toilets, and they have the common amenity area, like they call it, community spaces, and wherein you have the libraries, gyms suited for the old bodies, the gardens and social halls and hobby rooms, so everything, what name it, everything what they have, they provide. So the healthcare systems and senior-friendly facilities, the accessibility and other things, they are fantastically they designed it. But we are also doing the same thing. Only thing is the common amenity design and the individual unit design will have to have more senior-friendly basis. That design will have to be adopted. And if you see the occupancy rates, the 90% of the community is totally filled. So, which says demand is not a problem. It's only the supply is a problem. Today, as I said, now we have 156 million people of senior living, which is going to be 346 by 2050. The demand ratio, if you calculate, is what we have now is about approximately 1%, the housing units. So there is a great opportunity, and at the same time, there's a great demand for senior living community and the individual units and the support system that they provide. So basically the misconception is no, the senior living is for people who have nowhere else to go. That is what the misconception. But it's not so. It is no. This is not about care. This is about the choice that they have. They are going to live in.